music's in Ow, not me, dumbass! Get the girl! Get the girl!
Hello and welcome to Ycft. We're back looking at a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, and particularly the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, or sometimes it's known as Part 2. God, it's been a while since we've done one of these.
It has.
We did 3 videos on this last year on 4 films, so we've talked about the original film.
Yeah.
We've talked about the 2003 reboot, and then we compared the 2013 US box office hit, it says, Texas Chainsaw 3D with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
So, very out of order.
Extremely out of order. So,
Keeping with us.
today, in the midst of summer, we're going to look at the original sequel.
Yeah.
Which, believe it or not, came out 12 years after the original one.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this film kind of splits fans, I think, because it is a massive departure from the original. Personally, I think it's easier to watch, but it doesn't make it an easy watch by any means. This film,
No.
you described it as exhausting to watch.
It is.
In a good way, like it's good, but the film it's loud, it's chaotic. There's lots of screams. There's lots of the family talking over each other. You got chainsaws. It takes a lot to watch afterwards. It's like sensory overload.
Yeah.
This one, you would not believe, if you watch this without knowing who the director was, you would not believe that it was Tobe Hooper.
No.
Because it is basically almost nothing like the original.
We talked about it, I think, in Insidious Poltergeist in that video, but I just have this theory, like, I am a fan of Tobe Hooper's films. Like, I think he's a great filmmaker, was a great filmmaker, but I don't feel like any of his films have a kind of signature style. Like, you could watch Poltergeist, the original Texas Chainsaw, Salem's Lot, and then the sequel, Texas Chainsaw. There's no, like, correlation, I think, in terms of the aesthetic or, like, the tone. Like, they might as well have been made by different directors.
Yeah. It's funny because he often says that the first film was a black comedy.
He does. He was very adamant about this.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would agree. So he wanted to emphasize the black comedy in this. Well, maybe this is just more experience. He's been able to grow as a director. Maybe now he can concentrate on bringing out the things that he wants to bring out a bit more. But also, like, the mid-80s was very different to the mid-70s.
Very
It's
different.
bringing Texas Chainsaw Massacre into the 80s. It had to,
the 80s.
like, what was great and what really worked about the first one wouldn't have worked then.
Let's just bear in mind, the poster for Texas Chainsaw 2 is based off the poster for The Breakfast Club. Yeah. They are literally posing, like, as Molly Ringwald, as Emilio Estevez. It's like, right away, that kind of... That tells you, I think, really what you need to know. But yeah, it's like, it's coming after the slasher boom. It's coming after a lot of, like, kind of schlocky, low-budget horrors that are, popular in the early 80s too. So yeah, he's changed with the times. Yeah. But I do think it's also important to note that he never said that the original was an all-out comedy. He just said that there were undertones of black comedy throughout it. And he also said that people missed it because of just how shocking it was and how, mistakenly gory people thought it was. I guess there's like a hint of a bit of dark humour in it, but it's easy to miss.
Yeah, and he wasn't actually supposed to direct this one.
No, he didn't really want to, did he?
No, he had a free picture deal with Canon Films, and it seems to go back and forth. Like, either he was interested in doing a sequel. Part of the deal was that they wanted a sequel. I think it's more so like they really wanted a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel. Like, there was a way, he knew it would be a good way for him to get a deal. But initially he was just going to produce it, so he'd make this film and get to make any 2 other films that he wanted. Pretty good deal. Canon Films obviously famously went under.
They did.
And were famously very rocky with their...
They had a very erratic budget strategy.
Yeah, the budget for this... Because initially they signed off on the idea as soon as he pitched it to them, then actually read it and were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
So they had... Because he wanted a town full of cannibals.
Yeah, he did.
At some point, it was going to be a parody of Motel Hell, which was in itself a kind of a parody on
the original, so it would have been full circle.
Yeah, so eventually we ended up getting this instead, but they would change the budget week by week depending on how their films were doing at the box office. Yeah. So that must have been a nightmare.
Oh God, it would have been hell.
Like, he only directed it because at one point the budget got so low in pre-production that they couldn't afford to get another director in, so he just did it.
So he did it.
And that's That's hard. That must be so hard to work with.
It's just like, can't really imagine like a similar system today.
Well, Canon didn't last.
Well, Canon did not last, but I don't know how long they actually lasted in the end. But
I think it was a little while, and they made some interesting films. Like, also,
Yeah.
this is very
yeah,
interesting. But also, like, to make a sequel to a film, it came out 12 years prior. That's
Yeah.
it. We see it more often today because legacy sequels are quite popular, but back then
yeah,
they weren't.
no.
And so Synopsis.
Synopsis.
So yeah, 12. Well, I think in the timeline it's like 13 years later, because the events of the original film are 73.
Yes.
So 13 years later, we start off with a bunch of college kids who are just driving, shooting, being dickheads on their posh car phone, ringing into this radio station.
Buzz and Rick.
They're just causing havoc through Texas, and they lock up the lines of this radio station to basically harass them. But while they're doing this, they get attacked by a chainsaw wielding corpse. It's Leatherface puppeting the dead body of the hitchhiker from the original film, which I didn't realize the first time.
No.
It basically destroys them. Like, just hacks them to pieces in. Tom Savini did some great work on this film.
He did.
But this is all recorded on the radio station. They're just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And the town, very much like Jaws, the local sheriff is like, oh, it was just an accident because there's a big game in town and it's big for business. It's like they don't want to close the town, like they don't want to close the beach.
This is just an accident. Just a couple of wild punks out raising hell. Yep.
One of those boys so wild sawed his own head off going 90 miles per hour.
But then we also we learn as well in the prologue, like in the classic Texas Chainsaw, like when the words come up to I can't remember exactly what that is called, but like let's just call it the prologue basically. And we learn that since the events of the first movie, the town has been beset by chainsaw wielding deaths. Like the town is.
Well, they never found the house.
Yeah, so it's.
I have this theory that they weren't really looking. I think they looked a bit.
Well, plays into the corruption side of it potentially as well.
Yeah, because like I said, this event happens. Clearly, like, it is not just a car crash.
It's clearly not.
And they refuse to close down the town. We have a ranger called Lefty. Who is the uncle of Sally and Franklin from the first film. Apparently he's been searching for... They actually are called the Sawyer family in this. They're given it. He's been searching them for 13 years.
Yeah.
Even though it's been like chainsaw-related deaths all across the last decade.
That's the thing. Like obviously, the Sawyers have not been quiet in those 13 years. Like they have continued to kill, but they've also grown a fully blown enterprise
of meat
as well. Yeah. Drake Sawyer's not. He's been a busy boy.
Yeah, we'll get into him later because I think he's extremely interesting.
Drake's great.
The radio presenter called Stretch, played by Caroline Williams, up there, one of the best final girls of all time.
Good.
She wants to get off just doing late night radio. She wants to be a reporter. She wants to be up there. So she takes the tape to Lefty and he tells her to play it on the air.
Not immediately.
Not immediately. And I know we can get into the problems with Lefty as a character, but just for the purpose of getting through the synopsis.
Okay.
So she plays it on air, and that leads to her getting a visit by Leatherface and a new character called Chop Top.
I wanna buy some radio ad time.
Are you fucking crazy? We are closed.
Who is meant to be the twin brother of the hitchhiker, played incredibly by Bill Moseley.
Yeah, he's great.
He played the hitchhiker in a short film called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
He did, yeah. He was such a fan of the first.
Yeah, and some screenwriting friends showed it to Tobe Hooper, and he said, like, if I ever do a sequel, I'm going to cast you in it.
You're in it, yeah.
So you're often the role of Chop Top, and it's like that's just kind of like the dream. And like before the internet, really as well. It's like that's a dream situation.
Well, I think Moseley has said, hasn't he, that this is just his favourite film.
It's his favourite role that he's ever done. And he's gone on and done like a lot of quite famous cult films.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
The Firefly trilogy is probably what he's most famous for.
I thought he'd be a good Joker. Like watching this the second time, he's got that kind, the manic energy. Like, yeah.
He's got Chop Top. He's got plain. It's clear. I think they explain he's not there because of Vietnam or something like that.
Probably.
Like it's kind of not really. It seems that he is a military vet and is taking a bit of a
I can't deal with the eating his.
He's always
scabs.
coat hanger. He's constantly like scratching at his scabs and picking at it. So they attack the radio station. Leatherface doesn't kill Stretch.
No, he's told to.
he's told to, but he seems to develop a bit of a crush on it. It's like, with legs like that, I can completely understand.
All right. Okay.
God, like, Stretch is a beautiful woman.
Caroline's got one. Nice one.
Yeah, but she kind of like manipulates that and kind of uses that to get out of the situation.
She does the smartest thing she can, and she plays along with it.
Yeah, we'll get more into that later.
Right.
So she then follows them back to their new home, which is in an abandoned amusement park.
Yeah.
Which kind of gets caught. The usual Texas Chainsaw stuff kind of happens. Lefty comes up with some chainsaws. We'll get into the ending. That's basically the synopsis of this film. So the Sawyers have been around, but they've not been found. And it's just pure chaos, this whole film.
It's the loudest. I mean, I admittedly have not seen the rest of, well, not all of the sequels, but this is one of the loudest, chaotic movies that's out there. And I do like this film, and like you were saying, compared to the first one, in a way, it's easier to watch because it doesn't have that grindhousey feel that the first one does. It's like, yeah, it's still set and shot in Texas, but like you don't feel like the blistering heat and like I don't know, you don't necessarily feel like you're there. Like this does feel like you're watching a movie. With obviously an increased budget from the first one as well. And like the comedy kind of, takes you in and out of it at the same time. It's
the blaring 80s music. Right? It feels like a film in the 80s, but also
feels like a film. Yeah, it's a movie.
Like, so it still feels like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I personally really, really enjoy this one. I know it didn't do that well. I think it made like $8 million on a budget of like 4.5.
4.5 million.
But did quite well on home video on it. But it also had its problems with the MPAA, like what film didn't back then. And a lot was cut. Like 2 scenes in particular. There's a scene where the Sawyers Leatherface and Chop Top slaughter a bunch of like rioting football fans.
Oh yeah.
Which Savini said was like some of the best work he's ever done.
He said that about Grandpa.
Yeah, Grandpa as well is like some of the best making he's ever done. He does look fantastic, but this seems like some incredibly impressive. Like Leatherface kicking open the doors of the van, like, going to town, all cut, and it's just devastating. You can find the scenes, but they're like VHS quality. Like they're on.
It's not. Yeah.
Arrow Video did a great job of remastering this Blu-ray, and another one had a cameo by Joe Bob Briggs.
Oh,
anyone in the horror community is obviously going to know who Joe Bob is. And he was quite a young man at the time.
Yeah.
And this was like it's an attack on some people coming out of a movie theater because he's a massive advocate for the original film. He calls it like one of the best films ever made.
Yeah.
Loved it. So it's quite devastating that he got cut as well.
It is.
But you can still see that scene.
The film still flows enough.
Yeah. So there was another scene where like Lefty and Stretch were apparently like father and daughter, but they just cut that for time, and you can't even know
that they did that.
You can't even notice it.
Yeah.
So
we didn't need that shit.
I kind of want to split this into talking about individual characters that I find quite interesting.
Okay.
So I think we should talk about the cook.
You want to start off with
Drayton Sawyer.
Drayton. All right.
So I think because he is the only returning cast member.
Yes.
From.
Yeah.
Are you saying the Stretch's assistant?
Goes inside your haunted head.
Oh, LG. Yeah, so he's not in the original movie, but he was working as production crew on the original film.
Yeah, so he did come across.
So he's back. Yeah.
Yeah, because Gunnar Hansen didn't return as Leatherface.
He was approached.
He was approached, and you get 2 different stories on this.
Depending on who you ask.
He says they offered him scale plus 10% for agent fees, but when he said he didn't have an agent, they put down just a scale.
Yeah. So he said.
And other people have said, "Oh no, he hummed and hawed on it for too long, and they retracted it." I reckon it was more of the money.
Well, considering the story we know of the budget on this.
Yeah. So we got what was the name of the guy who played Leatherface this time?
He's a guy called Bill Johnson.
I think he did a fine job, to be honest.
He does a good job. I mean,
you don't like his little shimmy, do you? His little chainsaw dance.
It's too much. It's just too much. Like, if I had it once, fair enough. But he does it all the fucking time.
You don't like it when he's thrusting with a chainsaw?
I did. We'll get to the thrusting. We'll get there.
Yeah, when we get to talking about Leatherface.
Yeah.
So, what's the name of the guy who plays the cook?
Jim Sido.
Yeah, so he's the only returning member of the family, and he has a lot more screen time in this. And I found it really interesting. In the first one, it's kind of they're cannibals because of the economy. Like they have nothing. They're doing what they can to survive.
Yeah, they're on the ground basically. Yeah.
In this one, he's kind of like he's a booming businessman. The film literally opens where he's like
The chili cook-off.
Yeah, he's at a chili cook-off, winning
His prize meat.
a prize, and the town loves him. And it's like, oh, I find him quite cute. And it's
Yeah.
like he's like a local hero
He actually is.
for his meat, and he's like, oh, don't skimp on the meat.
On the meat.
Prime meat.
Don't skimp on the meat. I got a real good eye for prime meat. Runs in the family. Whoop. It's one of those hard-shell peppercorns.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like he's feeding the town of Texas.
Yep.
Texans.
With its inhabitants.
Yeah, but it's like he's quite wealthy. Like they're still living underground, but he has money. He's got a bit of a booming industry.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting because I think commercialism is and greed is kind of a big part of the film. So it's like they've kind of like, almost in the American Dream of, he's worked his way out of the squalor they were in the original film.
But that's also, isn't it, again, like moving with the times of, you've got, like the, in the 70s, and how, like there were lots of cuts and everything, and like, obviously Vietnam, and it was just like this really devastating time, like a bit of a wasteland, especially in the, that part of America especially. But then when you move into the 80s, and then you've got things like yuppie greed being, in capitalism, and then it's like the Reagan era, and it's, consumerism.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm literally just thinking of this now. It kind of makes sense that Tobe would, the script would kind of lean into
Move
that.
it into the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's why I just think the cook is, like you said, this was his last film role, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he's looking old in it.
Yeah, but he is still great. But he is loud through the whole... I'm very excited for the game that's might be coming... It's coming. I know it's coming out in August, and I'm not 100% sure when this video is coming out, so it might already be. But I've seen the tests that they've done. They did like a test for people, like an open beta, and whoever they've got to do the cook's voice, it sounds right. He moves like he does, and it's quite. I'm quite excited to play as the cook because he's one of my favorite characters in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To be honest.
Yeah. He's such an evil bastard.
Yeah, Chop Top.
Yeah.
He's a great replacement for the hitchhiker.
Yeah, he still has that kind of that weird, maniacal energy.
Manic energy, and he's just like puppeting his brother through most of the film.
Yeah.
But I like him and Leatherface together.
There's two very different characters.
Yeah. But do you notice that Leatherface doesn't take on the female persona at any point through the film?
No.
We never see him in his dress.
No, he's in a suit.
He's in a suit for the whole film, so it's like, has he moved away from the motherly side of it?
I think he adopts whatever he needs to adopt, to like whatever's relevant for the family.
Because I'd say that one thing I really like, because you can argue the first one, that Leatherface he's not the villain in it.
No, he's having a bad
This
day.
one, I also don't see him as the main villain.
No.
In this film, it's like he kind of goes along. Obviously, he's killing people.
Yeah.
But the cook and Chop Top are the evil ones.
Yeah. I think it
Arguably,
helps.
like, Drayton, the cook, is probably the most sane out of all of them, so does that make him the worst out of them all?
He's like the puppeteer,
Whereas
in a way.
Leatherface is still very childish. I'm glad that Toby didn't lean into the, let's just make him a chainsaw-wielding lunatic.
Yeah. I mean, he's not like...
We explore more, almost like his sexuality in this one.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
really
definitely.
interesting.
I mean, he's not an anti-hero by any means.
No.
But I think it also helps the fact that he's mute. Like Chop Top, obviously, he's like very loud and everything he says very crude and, filthy and it's dirty and it's nasty. And the cook is basically the same. Whereas Leatherface, like even physically, he's quite timid in a way. But because we never hear the guy, like we don't know his thoughts, we don't know what he's like, how against his family he really is. But he's got, he's born into this family. He doesn't know anything else.
Yeah, it's when he's got Stretch like in the stock room and it's like some very phallic imagery with that chainsaw running it down. It's like he probably never felt these feelings before.
Are we talking about the thrusting scene?
The thrusting scene. Do you want me? Should we talk about like the radio? That whole bit.
I think let's just go into it. It's such a huge moment in the film. She plays the tape of Buzz and Rick being killed on the airways.
Yeah, and that's where that obviously worked. Like in order to try and lure them out,
it works.
It does. Her mate is hammered a lot in the head.
Very much replicating, the first kill in the original.
Yeah.
The shaking and the
and
emotions.
It's like, again, this is where Bill Moseley gets to properly play. Because at first it's just him and her, and he's like he wants a tour, so she's like desperately like trying to like get him out. Like
here's
the
a
shorts. Here's a lamp. Here's a
Here's
squishy.
a shark.
Yeah, and and here's the exit sign.
Here's the exit. Tour's over.
It's a phenomenal. It's one of the
Oh.
most memorable scenes in the film. Like especially when Chainsaw and Leatherface like bursts through the wall.
Get that bitch, Leatherface. Get
And
that bitch.
we get the swap because she closes a sheet metal door on
She
him
closes it on him, yeah, and he can't get in.
in reverse of the shot from the original one.
Impenetrable.
But when
Dog will hunt.
when he gets in there, she must have been exhausted making this. She screams.
It's exhausting
so
watching
much.
her.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what it did to her voice doing it, but
Yeah.
she's brilliant in it. So yeah, it's, what we have is he eventually breaks through into this room. There's like, what is it, a tub of beers in ice.
Yeah.
And he spears all the beers so like they go everywhere. So she's kind of like
Just soaking wet.
And then he gets a bit exhausted, and so he pauses for a bit, and then what does she say? She's like, "Are you mad at me?"
Are you mad at me? How mad at me are you?
Yeah. First and how good are you?
How good are you?
I love this because she kind of like, I think she can kind of see that he's attracted to her and he doesn't quite know what to do.
This is for sure his very first like sexual encounter.
How good are you? Huh?
And
Yeah.
he literally doesn't know like how to act.
Because at one point he just kind of like, I'm not going to like just do the motions, but it's almost like, all right, so he kind of has a chainsaw. And he like, it's like,
Yeah,
has
yeah.
he just came?
You're really good. Oh no.
Potentially.
And she just kept saying, how good are you? How good are you with that? Obviously referring to the chainsaw, which is obviously his penis.
It's one of the most cringe-inducing moments because he has it's not obviously switched on at this point, but he goes in between her legs and like strokes that area with the chainsaw, and it's just like if
Her
there's a
performance-
moment where you want to cross the legs.
Her performance in that moment is a mixture of like trying to be seductive, but is also utterly terrified. It's like it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I said, she can kind of see what's happening. Just tries to like use her sexuality to try and
She does what she
save
needs
herself.
to do.
Does
Yeah,
what she
it's
needs to do.
Yeah, but it
I don't know how far she would have been willing to go in that situation, but
no.
it works.
It gets too much for him now, and he can't handle it. So then he switches the chainsaw and he like goes crazy around the room. He doesn't hurt her.
Yeah,
But
that's when he does like the
it's too
thrusting
much.
motion with the chainsaw.
It's too much for him.
Yeah.
So it's like definitely this is the first time like he's been aroused by a woman, and he just literally like doesn't know what to do.
And he lies to his brother.
Yeah. There's a great comment I found on YouTube though where it's like Leatherface has praise kink.
Stretch as a character, like even though the 2022 film is obviously a direct sequel to the first film, I wish they kind of made it a direct sequel to this one and have her return instead, because she makes more sense.
She is more of a final girl than Sally ever was, and that's no detriment to Sally.
Sally was never supposed to be a final girl,
No.
like the way it was kind of written.
No.
But this is like from the beginning, Stretch is our final girl.
Stretch is poised as like the main character.
And she
earns that
suffers,
right
and
to
she
live.
earns it, yeah.
Yeah.
And a great fact about her, like the character, she's never officially played the character again, but the character's also never gone away.
Mm.
She is in the third film.
She is.
In a uncredited role as a news reporter.
Yeah.
The director said to her, I don't want this role to be played by anyone other than you. The fans will know it's you.
Yeah.
We can't officially call you this because then people need to be paid, but I want you in this film. In this small role, you are that character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she does technically appear in that. In Hatchet 3, I've never watched the Hatchet series actually. I need to check them out. The director said, you are Stretch in this. You are Stretch. She's grown up, but she's got a family. She's changed her name. You are Stretch. And she's actually called Stretch in one of the Sharknado films that she's in. So this character is like never really gone away, and she's crossed into so many different films.
She's appeared a lot, which I love. I think she's great. I really do think she's a great final girl.
And after that, she follows them because she's waiting for Lefty to turn up. And he's kind of used her as bait.
Lefty, they came! Where were you?
I had to do it. Damn, I used you, girl. I'm here now. Grab hold of this.
Yeah.
So she ends up trapped. It's a mixture of, is it really smart that she follows them or really dumb?
I think it's just desperate. It's like adrenaline, isn't it? Just creeping in at that moment. But we got to talk about Lefty at some point too. Because...
We will.
Okay.
Because I think there's a perfect moment to talk about him.
Okay.
Because he's kind of absent for a lot of the film and he's kind of more of a troublemaker.
He is.
Than anything else. But yeah, so she follows them there, ends up falling through a trapdoor, and it's where all their bodies are and their preparation.
Yeah.
But again, this is where we find out that I keep forgetting her mate's name.
LG.
LG. Can people just have names in this?
LG.
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 He ain't dead.
No, he's not.
Oh,
dead.
how is he not dead?
He'd been better off if he was.
And we see he's getting skinned.
He's getting skinned.
And we think he's dead at this point. But some Leatherface finds Stretch there.
Hiding.
And he doesn't want to reveal that she's there. Again,
No.
he tries to save her in a weird way. Like, he ties her up,
Yeah.
but then puts LG's face on her. It's like he's trying to make her like him.
Or like a way to hide her more.
Hide her,
as
yeah.
well. Like, if I put this face on you, then they won't see you. Maybe that was a part of it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be like a weird connection. Like, I'm wearing someone else's
Did he
face
initially
as
cut the
well.
face off to give himself a new face?
Maybe.
Which is something I always really liked about the 2003 reboot.
Yeah.
They did. So we see him like getting new faces.
Yeah.
It's then when he kind of like leaves her alone there, tied up with his face on, that we realise that LG is still alive.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm falling apart.
Oh, at that moment where he wakes up, it's like...
Some really good prosthetic work
It's actually
there.
really emotional because the guy's been skinned. He's lost his face, but his first thought is to protect Stretch.
Mhm.
And I love it when he's like, "Darling, don't be scared." You know, like his first thought is to comfort her.
I like this. It's a little line when she kind of reveals that she loved him.
I think he's dead at that point, isn't he? He
Yeah.
passes out finally, and she's
Yeah.
like, "I love you."
But he does say he
And
helps
she
her
gives
as
him his face back.
puts his face back on.
Yeah.
It's like this film is
Yeah, it's tough.
as bloody and gory as people wrongly remember the first film being.
Yes.
It's like
yeah.
every bit of blood you fit, because the first film's a pretty bloodless,
It
film.
is. It's
this
misremembered.
is copious
Yeah,
amounts of blood and guts.
For sure.
Whew.
I
It's-
loved LG.
Now let's get on to Lefty, because from this moment onwards, she could have escaped if not for Lefty.
He's a fucking...
So played by Dennis Quaid.
Hopper.
Wow, I'm not on it with names today at all, am I? Dennis Hopper.
That would have been very different.
Is there a Dennis Quaid? Does Randy Quaid have a brother called Dennis?
Yeah, Dennis Quaid.
Alright, I'm not just making people up.
You
then.
haven't just created a person.
I've just created another Quaid. Dennis Hopper, who he said this is like the worst film he's ever worked on.
Until he did Super Mario.
Yeah. we could try and debate on whether or not we could remember he actually says that he is related to Franklin and...
Yeah. I was trying
Sally.
to recall if at the beginning when he first arrives at the car crash scene, if it's revealed then.
You know why I'm here.
Yes, there's something about chainsaw killers, your brother's kids killed. But that was 14 years ago, sir, way down in South Texas.
Or if we find out when he discovers the wheelchair.
It's interesting that they kept the wheelchair of his body.
Mm.
And that's all, it's obvious in that moment. You see he's like devastated, he kind of breaks. But when we're first introduced to him, I kind of found him quite interesting. It's like, all right, so we've got the typical revenge tale. And he goes to buy a chainsaw. He wants to beat them the way they attacked his family with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
So he gets a massive chainsaw and two little handheld
Yeah.
ones. I'm thinking, this is going to be awesome. And it will be. It will be. He seems going mad on this log, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like he's meant to be the law, but he's willing to go down to their level.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does set Stretch up.
Yeah, he does.
He's like, sorry, darling, I used you as bait.
But even preceding that, when she first goes to him with this tape, saying, I think I've got evidence of literally like a massacre happening here. This is a chance we could try and take them down. He rejects her, and he literally just turns her away, only to change his mind like 10 minutes later. And every time I watch it, I always just feel like it's just a waste of time, because I don't feel like there's any justification as to why he initially turns her away.
No.
Just to then go back and say like, actually, yeah, like let's play
Let's
the
do
tapes. It's annoying. I don't know if it was just like a poorly written in the screenplay, but I don't feel like there was any justification there.
Yeah, it's like as soon as he gets there, in fact, he does go to look for her when she falls down the trapdoor, but as soon as he sees Franklin's body, he kind of loses it, and he's just like cutting down beams. He's trying to bring the place down.
The other thing too is like, I noticed it again the last time we watched it, is that there's so much momentum happening when Stretch is down like in the bowels of the, the tunnels, like where the Sawyers dwell, and she's trying to hide from them, and Leatherface is trying to shield her, and she's heartbroken over LG, and like, she's, all this like pent up energy is happening, and it's really, really tense, and we keep cutting back from like the really high octane stuff to just
Lefty cutting beams.
Just cutting beams, and that goes on for so long.
You kind of forget about him, but like
you really do. Like,
she
he's
would have
not
escaped
part of the main action
if he wasn't bringing the place down.
Totally, like he does serve a purpose at the end. Like, I will give him that. But for the vast majority of the film, he's so separate from the main events, and what he literally is just chopping through beams. And like, yeah, there's the moment where he discovers the wheelchair, and like, there's a bit of a moment where he's like, oh my, my nephew, whatever. But ultimately, I kind of think the revenge plot was a little bit weak. And
Yeah.
just him as a character, because ultimately, like, I don't care about Lefty, I care about Stretch. Like, she has my attention, and like, she's who I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
Because Lefty is so separate from that, I kind of can't.
Like,
root for him in
his
the
actions
same
do
way.
lead to her getting captured. We have another moment of like where Leatherface, he's stuck between protecting her and obeying his family.
You got one choice, boy. Sex or the saw. Sex is, well, nobody knows. But the saw is family.
Sex or the saw, boy.
Sex or the saw.
You got one choice, boy.
You can see he's struggling with
He's
it.
struggling, yeah. I mean, I love that, like, initially how they don't kill her right away, because they're like, oh, she's the first girl he's ever brought home. Like, they're kind of curious about it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay.
all right. And then we get like the new version of Sally tied up at the dinner table.
Yes, yeah.
And it's not the same. God, she screams. There's so much going on. It's like, that's just exhausting.
I literally...
Interesting, like, there was a fire, wasn't there, during production?
Yeah, there was.
And I think it must have been this set. And when the fire department turned up, they thought they found like a serial killer's lair because there was just bodies everywhere.
Yeah, just all these fake skeletons like strewn around, all this meat.
So we reintroduced the grandpa, and he looks great.
Yeah, well, Savini said
In
it's
this
his proudest moment.
And almost a weird little bit of backstory on Grandpa. Like, the cook kind of tells, he was one of the best like butchers around, and so things started becoming automated, and he just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we can get a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they're putting her head over the bucket and getting it.
Trying to get Grandpa to do it, like rebuild his strength, and we get all the, which is still horrific to watch.
It's not any easier to watch than it was in the first one.
It's also, like, again, it's when you boil it down, it's like 1, 2, 3, like 4 men against one tied up woman.
Yeah.
It's like that concept alone is absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch. And then Lefty comes in.
This is when he kind of
finally sawed through enough beams.
But yeah, finally sawed through enough beams, and like he kind of saves the day. But it's like, have you really earned this at this point?
You've not earned this at all. It's like, I'm happy you're here now for her sake.
Yeah,
but
which when we know they cut a scene of them being revealed to be like the father and daughter, it's like, it really wouldn't have worked.
No, it would have been stupid.
Yes, it would have been dumb.
Just dumb.
But to me, this is where he does redeem himself a bit, purely because, like, who doesn't love a fucking chainsaw fight?
Chainsaw fight.
And it's like, almost Leatherface kind of like, is he angry because he has saved Stretch? Or is he angry because he's the chainsaw guy and his looks bigger?
Well, this is an interesting thing, because, like, obviously Leatherface isn't aware of whatever the relationship is between Stretch and Lefty. But yeah, it was, when we were watching it, we were like, okay, obviously he's on the defense because this guy's just broken into his family lair. So, he's going to fight him. But is he fighting him for that reason? Or is it more of, this is like a bit of a rival for my girl.
Yeah.
Like, Stretch is mine, and you've just come in because you want to take her away. So I like to think it's like Leatherface is coming at it from that angle,
Yeah.
maybe specifically.
It's the cook in the arse with his chainsaw.
Oh god, yeah. He just hides under the table.
Yeah.
Well, you know
He's got his two like little chainsaws in holsters like revolvers.
Yeah.
It's really good fun. Like I love that whole
Yeah.
scene. While that's going on, like Stretcher's escape, but the hitchhikers chased her. We get like a really cool chase through like tunnels or catacombs, whatever they are.
Oh yeah.
And this is where she has earned the right to live at this point anyway. But she's constantly been on like the defensive.
Yeah.
She kind of goes on the offensive.
Yeah.
And you also kind of see, he definitely is a hitchhiker's brother. Like she's going up some ladders and he's like hacking away at her with his razor. It's like slicing away at her legs.
Yeah.
Up to like the top of the theme park. And I think it was actually a real band theme park they filmed at for that bit.
Cool.
Apart from like the lair bit was a set. And you see the OG chainsaw, Grandma's chainsaw.
Grandma, like a little shrine to her.
So she wields the chainsaw. Fights off Chop Top and she does the chainsaw dance, and she has earned that chainsaw dance at that point.
She totally has. It's a cool scene, and
when she like, electrocutes him in his plate.
Yeah. There's something really gnarly about that. Like she's desperately trying to get the chainsaw to
whilst
work,
being hacked,
and he's just coming at her from the back, and she's screaming. But like the adrenaline is so hot, and she keeps going, and eventually she does get it to work. So I was like, all right, I love that in a final girl. You know, like she's in so much pain. She's literally being stabbed. She's being scraped, but she's determined to get that chainsaw going. I do like the scene where he's chasing her through. Like the dungeon lair bit. There's something really creepy about the way Bill Moseley kind of moves. Yeah. In that.
Because like, there's a rope bridge and he kind of like jumps up and like swings his legs.
Yeah.
Up and he kind of like moves like a snake.
He
almost.
Does. It's like there's something quite animalistic about it, and like obviously like they're making a film and like that it's all been choreographed and all that stuff. But I can imagine like if I was Caroline into doing that scene, I would be desperate to get away from that. Like, I don't think a lot of acting would be needed. If I had him, like, creeping up behind me like that, it's a good chase scene.
Like I said, she is earned a spot as, like, one of the greatest final girls.
She's really good.
I like that the final competition wasn't between her and Leatherface, because it wouldn't feel earned at this point.
No.
Because it's almost like there's no rival, there's no, like, she doesn't have a problem, isn't with him, even though he killed LG.
I absolutely love that moment where he's chasing her because she's trying to escape and he doesn't want her to leave, and then he finally corners her and she's like, look, this isn't going to work out.
Yeah, it's like, can we just
All right. Let's talk about it. Okay, what, are you pissed off? What about me? Listen, this is not going to work out.
Can we just talk?
Talk
I don't
about
think this is going to work out. We're two really different people. She's trying to break up with him in, like, the nicest way. They're just totally traumatized. Yeah. It's good.
The ending of the fight with Lefty and the Sawyers, like, the cook takes a grenade out of the hitchhiker's body and just blows them all up to bed. Leatherface has got a chainsaw through his gut at this point. It's kind of weirdly anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like this was supposed to be an ending.
Leatherface, I think, is meant to be dead after that. Like, the chainsaw goes through. Yeah.
But it's like, do you think Gunnar Hansen could have done any better a job?
I don't know if he could have done any better a job.
Maybe in the face-to-face scenes, he might have been able to do something. Because you think, like, back to the first film, the way he kind of has a breakdown.
Yeah.
After he's had to, like, put her up on the hook. It's like, maybe he could have done a bit more there, but I think like a lot of the physical stuff, I don't really think he could have done any more.
No, I don't think we would have got the shimmy with Gunnar Hansen.
The shimmy.
Which I'm still kind of, I'm
overall, like,
about that.
This is a really good film. It became a bit of a cult classic, and let's say fans still are split on it. A lot of people think it's too much of a
departure.
Too much of a departure from the grittiness of the first film, but as I really enjoy watching it. If I had the choice, even though I think the first film, it is a masterpiece. Yeah. I would rather watch this one just because it's easier, even if it is exhausting.
It is totally exhausting.
But it's also not perfect. Weirdly, the first one it's perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
In such a strange way. Like, there's such a weird structure to it. The way this one, you have to kind of view it as a studio film. Yeah. You've got like characters that are Lefty that aren't really developed properly, but still have like their hero moments. Kind of. Yeah. aren't earned, and to me, you just kind of pull the film down.
Yeah.
But the chainsaw fight is still really
I think it's
cool.
It's Stretch for me. Like she's
She's
the biggest pull, and she is fantastic in it. It's I think my relationship with the Texas Chainsaw films, like it's not really my franchise. It never really has been. But yeah, if given the choice, I would probably pick to watch.
It's weird, like
the
every
second
film
one.
we've watched so far is been so completely different.
Yeah.
It's just baffling.
It
really.
it's a messed up franchise. Like there's very little continuity between them. I don't think any of them really knew what to do with the family, like with Leatherface as a character. It's like where do we take him?
Yeah, I think
where do we go from here?
Pushing them to that, like the change with the cook, I think were quite smart because the cook tries to buy out Lefty, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it's like that's not a position he would have been in the first one.
No, he's like, I got cash.
And it kind of just shows, all right, they have actually been doing something over the last few
Yeah.
years, and like he's got this really fucked up business.
Yeah, totally.
But he's successful.
Yeah.
And it's like it shows how like kind of cutthroat he is.
Yeah, totally.
I just wish we had those scenes of them going to get their prime meat.
Prime.
I actually think that, as much as I think the film has a pretty nice runtime, I think it was needed.
Yeah.
The opening sequence with when they're chasing down Buzz and Rick is
It's
incredible.
really eerie.
And what a way to open a film.
Yeah,
like,
it's actually quite scary. You know, like the puppet.
It's like to use the hitchhiker as a puppet as well. It's like, why?
Yeah.
I don't care because it looks really cool.
Yeah, and then I don't know which one it is, Buzz or Rick, but when his head is split, and then you just see part of it like slide off as well. Like it's so gnarly.
It's Tom Savini, man. He just This was he was at his peak at this point.
Absolutely, yeah. It's different.
It's certainly different,
but it's fun.
Personally, I think this is the best sequel.
Yeah.
Out of the attempted sequels that we've had,
all
the attempted sequels, but I would so much rather have a legacy sequel to this film and have Caroline Williams come back.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Because we know Sally did not work in 2022.
None of the
doesn't help that it wasn't the same actress.
No, I think that actress did an okay job.
Oh, she did the best she could, but it was unavoidable.
I just think the film was shit.
Yeah, but I think the fact because we still have Caroline Williams and she still is very fond of the role and still actively plays the role, why not take advantage of that and have her come back?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we technically don't see Chop Top die.
No, we don't.
And you tell me Bill Moseley wouldn't return to this role?
Oh, he for sure would.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's do a sequel to this film. Let's do a proper Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Just
3.
bring them back.
Because from what I can gather, the third one ignores the events of this film as well.
Yeah.
Complicating the timeline even more.
Yeah.
Let's do a legacy sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
See where Leatherface and Stretch are post breakup.
Yeah.
How cut up he is about it.
Oh, I reckon he'd be wearing LG's face.
How cut up he
I
is.
got it.
Okay.
I got it. Sorry to be a buzzkill. Yeah. Have you guys seen this one? Where do you rank it in regards to the other sequels?
Yeah.
And who do you think is the better Final Girl, Sally or Stretch?
Or Stretch, yeah.
And why is it Stretch?
And yes.
Like I said, I'm not hating on Sally at all. She did what she needed to do in that film.
Yeah, but
she fills that role
also,
exactly how she was supposed to fill that role.
Let's just remember as well, we've got to give it credit. The final girl was not a thing.
No.
We're applying slasher rules here to what is really a non.
This is the mid-80s now, like
film.
The slasher rules are well and truly in place now.
Yeah, but they weren't in '73 when they were making the. Texas Chainsaw, is it a slasher movie?
I'd say especially this one is a slasher movie.
But the original, I wouldn't put it under the same umbrella as Friday the 13th.
No.
It's Grindhouse. It's Splatter.
It's the slasher granddaddy.
The slasher granddaddy, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, what Final Girl is like. Well, that term it wasn't even coined.
Yeah.
When the film was being made.
We've talked a lot about Tobe Hooper the past few weeks.
We have, yeah.
So we've talked about his Salem's Law. We've talked about Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And now this
Texas Chainsaw 2, which as I say, I think he's a great filmmaker, and
I feel like he can do any project that you put him on.
Yeah.
Like without having such a locked-in style. All right, we need him to do this. Yeah. mini-series on TV about adapt from Stephen King with vampires. Great. Oh, do you want to do an 80s version sequel to one of your Grindhouse films? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
It makes him a very interesting director to watch.
Yeah.
Can you work with Steven Spielberg and kind of replicate his type of style? Yeah. It's interesting. He's a very interesting director to watch.
Yeah. I think I would recommend it. Definitely. Just obviously bear in mind it is drastically different to the original, and it is emotionally and physically very exhausting to watch. much.
Yeah.
I need a break
There's
from it.
so much noise.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you get into the Sawyer household, and you've got Chop Top who's just like laughing and doing jokes, dancing with his dead brother.
It's a lot.
You've got Lotus going, and then you got James like, do I have to do everything myself?
Sex all the
What
time.
have I done to deserve this? Oh, one interesting thing actually is he says to Stretch he wouldn't wish this life on anybody,
Yeah.
which is really interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't get touched on anymore, so it's like, so he's done what he has to do, and now he can't get out.
Well,
But also, he benefits from this lifestyle.
yeah. It's also, I guess, he is the older brother.
Yeah.
It's easy to believe like he's maybe the dad of Leatherface and Chop Top and the Hitchhiker, but no, he's just the older brother, but he's also something of the father as well.
Yeah.
I think because of the age gap, he's had to kind of adopt that role, and he's very much the ringleader. So yeah, I think he is an interesting character who's been raised in interesting ways.
Yes. Yeah, it's so loud.
Yeah,
She
as
screams
I say, like I need a
so
break.
much. Yeah, we do need a break after watching. Like, we were just exhausted after finishing it.
Yeah, but I do recommend it ultimately.
Yeah. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Let us know who final goes between two, and what's your favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre film? Like, what's your favorite? In fact, specifically, what's your favorite Texas Chainsaw sequel? Because there's a lot of them. I'll throw prequels in there as well, but I know no one's going to go for the prequels because the two prequels we've had are awful, and you've not seen them, have you?
No.
They're bad. So thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next week.